Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. And I'm even more excited. I've got a double dip of amazing people out there that are going to drop some nugget bombs on you guys today. We're so blessed to be joined by Rachel Marshall and Bruce Wehner from the Money Advantage podcast and the Money Advantage out there. They're doing amazing jobs for business owners and entrepreneurs out there. And so I was really, first and foremost, I was honored to be a guest on their podcast a few weeks ago. And I was like, man, I love what you guys are doing. Got to have you on my show, not just because we've got so many great people out there, but we've got so many entrepreneurs that are listening all across the country with Note Nation, whether they're watching it live on Facebook or YouTube or listening to it on our different podcasting platforms or taking it in across our different radio stations across the country. So, well, good morning, Bruce and Rachel. How are you guys doing today?
Good morning. It is an honor and pleasure to be here. We're very excited.
Hey, Scott, I always like to be with somebody that's got the kind of energy you have, and I love the branding all over the back of your wall there. It's awesome.
We call it the green wall here, the green monster for the most part. People, it's funny, people walk into the office like, oh, we thought your office would be bigger. I'm like, no, it's the wall. I got a normal office space here. My staff's on the other side here, but I appreciate that for the most part. But why don't we talk a little bit about what you guys are doing out there and how you're helping so many people. So if you're listening, guys, if you want to check out the Money Advantage podcast, you can Google that and find their website to go from there as well. But Rachel, why don't you start off, because you're the co-founder of the Money Advantage with your husband. So let's talk a little about what you guys are doing, and we'll go from there.
And with Bruce as well. So it's the trio of us.
That's true. Okay, sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, we are the Money Advantage. Really, we're out there to really help entrepreneurs figure out a way to accelerate time and money freedom. Because financially, there's just so much that happens in your life. You're making a lot of money, but a lot of times people don't have a good system in place to really say, how do I keep more of this? How do I protect it? And how do I really not just make a lot of money, but how do I actually get cash flow from assets? How do I start having other things that are producing the income for me, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about? And so we really are on a mission to help people figure out how to do that, how to do those 3 steps, and not just one piece or not just one product, where I think a lot of people are focused on, hey, this one particular product is the answer to everything and all the world's problems. We really are saying, how can we help somebody not only start all the way back at the right mindset to really come from a position of abundance and value creation, looking at their cash flow awareness? How can we really help them keep more of that money, protect it, and then make more?
That's awesome. Now, Bruce, what would you say is probably the biggest mistake that you guys see entrepreneurs and business owners making as they get rocking and rolling?
Well, Scott, first of all, I think a distinction between a business owner and entrepreneur needs to be brought out. You know, I always say a business owner is somebody that's bought themselves a job, and and often they're the lowest paid person at that job. And an entrepreneur is someone who is actually constantly looking for systems and processes to make their business better, whether that means to scale up or to make it where they don't have to be an integral part of every decision making in the business. And when that happens, then they go through this phenomenon where they forget to retire. Why do they forget to retire? Because I think one of the to answer your question, the number one thing that businesses fail at is they're undercapitalized. Mm-hmm. And why are they undercapitalized? Because they put money in places they don't control. And when they put money into places they don't control in the normal boom and bust cycle of any economy, where a business goes through those normal things, they are undercapitalized, and thus the stress goes up. The employees are then stressed out also. And the main cause of the stress is they have lost control of their capital. And that's probably the number one thing. And then what happens, Scott, is, heck, they're all stressed out. They're like, I can't wait till I can retire from this place.
Because they want to get out.
Because they want to get out. Because they can't stand the stress. So then what they do is they put more money into places that they can't get to instead of back into their business. And so it's a death spiral. They just continue to have stress, and stress. And ironically,
They kind of run screaming from it, right?
I would add
Look
to
on
that.
Rachel's face, priceless.
I was like,
what the heck was that?
Was that an accident or was that on purpose? And then I saw your face, Scott. I said, okay, all right, you have some amazing sound effects going on. I would add to that. I think it's really not the entrepreneur or business owner's fault, though. I think there's just so much misinformation out there about what to do financially. And there's so many people saying, hey, you should just pay off all your debt and that's going to solve all your problems. Being debt free means you're financially free. Well, that is a myth. And I would say that's a lie. A lot of times people say, well, if I just plan for retirement, I get $1 million nest egg, I'm going to be all set. Well, that's also a lie. You get $1 million and you're going to be set for maybe like 3 years if you want to preserve that principle. There's just so many things out there that we're trying to make the right decisions. But honestly, just people are saying, well, this isn't my area of expertise, but I'm getting all this information, whether it's friends, family, the media, all this noise telling them to do things that are really not in their best interest. And we'll probably uncover that a little bit more as we go throughout the podcast today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think everybody seeks advice. They're not getting good counsel. Many people ask advice of their best friends, their drinking buddies, the people they hang around on the weekends. And if they're not in the lifestyle that you want, you probably shouldn't be asking their advice, right?
Exactly.
Great point. Yeah, we talk about that all the time with my clients, or if I do a seminar, I say, how many people are married? And I have them raise their hand. How many people have children? How many people have children still at home? How many people have aging adults? How many people are actually trying to think they're overworked? I mean, so we ask all these questions, and then I say, look around. Did everybody raise their hand for every one of those questions? So why are you trying to do what everybody is suggesting? You're doing one cookie cutter approach. You actually have to have an approach that's tailored to you, and also to your goals. Scott, I don't think you seem like a person that retirement is even on your radar. And the reason it's not on your radar is because you have so much value to give to people with your business and your education and your expertise that you're just going to structure your life to work and live the life that you love. And so why would you ever do that? Now, if you did have a goal to retire, why would you not want to build a business up where it's not dependent upon you to actually run it every day? Because then when you go out into the public and try to sell that business so you can do whatever you want to do in so far retirement, it's going to be a lot more valuable to a lot more people because they're looking at, hey, I can buy this business and the owner has proved to me they don't have to be there every day. So I can run other businesses, I can have other ventures, so on and so forth. But when you take money out of the business and you place it in someplace else that doesn't enhance the business, that's what you get. You get a business that's devalued, and it's actually, you get the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish. It's counterintuitive, but it happens.
That makes some good sense there. So, Rachel, what are a couple of places that you see people putting money in the wrong spots or in the wrong places? Is there some common misconceptions?
Yeah, and I'll actually start not even just where they're putting money. So let's back up a little bit. I think everyone wants to have more money, right? They want to be further ahead financially. What does that actually mean? They want to have more money for the future. They want to know that there's some type of income tomorrow, right? So how do they do that? Well, there's one way, which is just work harder. That sounds like a great idea, right? I mean, most of us are probably already working a lot of hours in business. And if you just double that, then of course you'll have twice as much money, right? Who is going to really feasibly do that? Not happening. Your sound effects are amazing. I love it. So you can't just work your way to have higher income by putting in more hours. It simply is not sustainable. So they say, oh, look, I'm just going to take on more risk. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to do this thing that everyone says is a really risky investment and I possibly could lose a lot of money. But here's the thing. High risk does not mean high return. High risk just simply means a higher potential of loss. So instead of getting more money, what usually happens is they end up losing more money and starting back at square one. And then the third thing is, well, they say, look, I could just sacrifice my lifestyle. I mean, everyone loves to do that, right? I mean, it's like the worst thing ever. You're trying to live on, ramen noodle soup, and you're not running your air conditioner and your heat, and you're trying to say, how can I have, low expenses? Bruce and I talk about this. If you really wanted low expenses, you would get a goat to mow your lawn. You would ride a bike instead of driving a car everywhere you go. I mean, who in the world wants that lifestyle? Nobody, right? So you can't just sacrifice your way to financial health. It's not possible. So really this comes down to, I just want to blow up one issue. I think everyone says I should be further along by now. And everyone else has it together except me. And that is just not true. It layers on all this shame and guilt and all this frustration, and it prevents us from actually making good decisions. So I just want to blow that up and say, hey, look.
Hang on a second. I have a bomb effect there for you. Scott,
I'm going to start asking you what type of awesome effects you have.
I'm going to send you one of these, Rachel, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you one.
I love it. So those are some things that people are trying to do the right things. And I think all of us are well-intentioned. We all want the best for our lives, for our kids, for our legacy that we're leaving, and just simply not having the right education and not knowing what the right things to do are causing us to make all these mistakes. So those are the 3 mistakes we want to avoid. So what do we want to do instead? And I really would say the first thing that we need to look at is, where's money flowing out of our control, and how can we get that money flowing back into our control? And then we can jump over to, where are people storing money, and where should they be storing it instead? So, do you want to jump into those money leaks for a little bit?
Sure. I mean, you want me to do it, Rachel?
Go ahead.
So the main one, I think, is well-intended accountants or CPAs are saying things like, hey, you need to put money into a SEP account for your retirement. And not, even if they don't do it for retirement, they say you're going to reduce your taxable income right now. And Scott, I don't know about you, but if you have a good accountant, if you have a good CPA and you're writing off the proper amount of deductions, you might already be in a very low tax bracket. And so you think you're saving a lot, but you might only be saving 10 or 12% on your federal taxes. Only then to actually take it out in the future at a higher tax bracket. People always say, hey, you're going to be in a high tax bracket while you're working, but you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. And I always say to them, first of all, do you want to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire? That means you don't have as much money coming in. Secondly, has anybody actually done that analysis? Because right now in the tax code, there's about a $235,000 difference within one tax bracket. So if you make $390, you're in the 28% tax bracket, and if you make $167, you're in the 28% tax bracket. So there's a big discrepancy there. So you could actually lower your taxable income by $150,000 and still be in the same tax bracket. And oh, by the way, just to add a little caveat to that, in 2026, our current tax cuts are actually set to expire. So they're actually going back to the previous, and if not higher, because we have $21 trillion in debt. So
that's the part I'm most concerned about. I mean, we really have no earthly clue what taxes are going to do in the future. And most people, I think if we ask clients or anyone we sit down with, most people say, I think taxes are probably going up just overall as a whole. So why would you want to pay tax in the future, postpone it and kick the can down the road and pay in the future rather than paying now?
And then as we're on the tax situation, I don't know how many times a CPA will tell a particular business owner to buy a piece of equipment just so they can write off the deduction on it, and it doesn't do anything more to help the cash flow in the business. And that drives me crazy too. But see, you got to understand the CPAs and accountants, they are never asked the proper question. And here's the proper question. Do you want me to solve for paying the lowest taxes this year, or do you want me to solve to help you pay the lowest taxes over your lifetime? That question is never asked by your CPA and accountant, and you should be asking that question, because most people just want to try to figure out how to save the most taxes now, and they don't even think about how to save it over their lifetime. So those are the two first things I think where people are losing control. putting money into a SEP IRA or a regular IRA or a 401k or so on and so forth, any tax deferred, and then buying equipment that is not needed to produce additional cash flow.
Now,
Yeah.
can I clarify something on the first person? Are you saying
Sure.
people should be putting money into their retirement accounts if it's just sitting there? Or are you talking about if they're using it? Because we do a lot with self-directed IRAs where people are putting money in and then using that money to buy debt or buy loans and returning stuff. Is there can you clarify that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I would clarify that. I think self-directed IRAs, if you're doing it and then see you're actually getting that money to work for you right away and you're getting cash flow from that. That is different than I'm just talking about sitting there and hoping for appreciation 20 years down the road. That's a completely different situation. Yes, a self-directed IRA where you're using it to actually produce cash flow now is a different situation than hoping for appreciation. We call it buy, hold, and hope. That's what everybody has espoused and said, oh, if you hold it long enough, it'll be fine. Well, what is long enough? So we call it buy, hold, and hope.
Which is not a strategy.
Hashtag buy, hold, hope, everybody out there. That's the big thing. But
what not to do, right? It's what not to do.
What other items, what other ways are you seeing people that are really kind of shooting themselves in the foot? Because I can understand, what you're talking about. Hey, they're a business and they go buy this big piece of equipment versus maybe leasing it or renting it to where it hits better for the books and stuff like that. Because in a couple of years, they're going to have to replace it anyway. Why? Are you saying it depends on kind of the equipment is, or is it just situation to situation?
Yeah, situation to situation. But really, every time you're buying a piece of equipment for your business, you should say to yourself, is this going to produce additional cash flow, or am I just – and then that analysis has to be offset with what the additional tax savings are doing. But if you're just doing it for tax savings, I've worked with a construction company, a highway. They build highways, and that's what the particular CPA said a couple years ago. Well, you need to buy a new dump truck because it'll save you $20,000 in taxes this year. And then I said to the person, I said, well, how many dump trucks do you have? And he said, well, we have like 8 or 9 right now. I said, do every one of them go out of your lot every day? He said, oh, no, only about half of them. So they have equipment, hundreds of thousands of dollars equipment that's not even producing any cash flow. Now, I was happy to hear, you asked for another example. Overhead has to be looked at all the time. You said people are surprised how small your office is. That's because you are looking at your overhead. You're not putting additional cash flow into overhead. Another recent example of a business owner that I was helping is it's called Buoyant. Everybody wants these self-deprivation tanks for relaxation right now. And they went to get an SBA loan for $1 million, okay? And the SBA gave them $750,000. The pods, which actually produce the actual cash flow, the things that you lay in, were $150,000 of the $750,000. Then they took of the $600,000 left, they took $500,000 to build out this beautiful lobby with all this kind of places where you could have these beautiful couches to sit on and so on and so forth, and the reception desk and all these elaborate lights and so on and so forth. And I said to them, you're bleeding cash because of all your overhead. And if you would have looked at and I was actually mad at the SBA Association because the P&L did not even support the $750,000. But they put money into stuff that did not produce cash for them. And that's another example of overhead. So having that small office, it just shows you what kind of business owner you are, Scott. You understand the value of not having overhead.
Which I can take, right, Scott, into the next one. Bruce has mentioned cash flow. I'm not sure if you heard it. You probably did about 20 times in that little segment that he shared. And so there we go, cash flow. So cash flow is really critical, and really it's all about having more cash flow, which really means having more profit. It means having a bigger gap between what you make and what you spend. So what you keep is more. And when you have more cash flow, then you're able to put more money into things that you can save and you can invest and you can do a lot of stuff with that cash flow. But most people are not focused on the cash flow. So that's why I wanted to just really highlight what Bruce was talking about in terms of cash flow. Debt is another huge piece that has people bleeding money out and not increasing cash flow. And here's what happens. They think, okay, I want the lowest interest rate because I don't want to have a high payment, right? So interest becomes this blaring thing that is the most important idea about everything to do with debt. They say, I don't want to pay interest. And more than that, I don't want to pay any payments. So therefore, I'm going to pay off all my debt. What happens though, the problem is when debt becomes a scary word, first of all, it's because we don't understand what debt is, but it also causes us to have all this cash flowing to reduce our liabilities instead of building assets. Here's how it happens. So really what debt means. Debt does not mean having a loan. A loan can be a really good thing. A loan can have you getting capital so you can go put it to work somewhere. And if you can earn more than what you're making, that's called arbitrage. It's called leverage. That's what the bank does. They're using that. They use someone else's capital, your money, when you put it into the bank, and then they borrow it, they loan it out at a higher interest rate, and they earn money on that. So why not instead think about how can we be the bank by doing the same thing? So when we look at debt, a liability just simply means a loan. Could be a mortgage, could be a payment on your office building. It could be it could be a credit card loan. It could be any type of payment where you have an obligation to pay someone else. Now, true debt is having negative equity, which that's a really fancy word. But what that means is that you have less assets than liabilities. Assets minus liabilities is a negative number. When that's negative, that's true debt. We don't want to be there. But having a loan does not mean you're in debt. So we want to flip that mindset about debt and say, how can we use this to increase cash flow? A couple things that you can think about are, number one, if you have great credit, you're going to have lower interest, which means lower payments, which means you keep more cash flow for the same exact item that you purchased for the same loan amount. Another thing you can think about is the longer the loan length, the smaller the payment. I actually talked to somebody, they're in the realtor field, and they said, hey, I've got a 40-year mortgage. I said, how do I get that? Because Bruce and I talk all the time. We say, hey, if we could get a 100-year mortgage, we would do it. And the reason is not because I want to be in debt for 100 years. We want to flip the mindset and say, that payment is going to be so much smaller that I keep more of my money so I can actually control that and put it somewhere that I can use it, put it to work, and that's going to be powerful for me. So coming back to the credit thing, if I want to have great credit, how do I get good credit? I want to make sure that I can always make my payments. I do that by building up my capital that I control so that even if, God forbid, I have a situation where income is low or something is happening that month, I can still figure out a way to make those payments. So really it's about looking at debt with a different perspective, saying it's not bad. Debt freedom is not the end all be all. And how can I figure out how to shrink those payments, get as much of that to be secured loans as possible, get as much of that to be tax deductible. And really you want to be in a position that you have the smallest payments.
Yeah, I love that. We deal with that every day, guys. Somebody called me the other day. Hey, I sold something. Should I go ahead and pay off my house, or should I keep the loan on? I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, what's your money gonna make if you invest in the market? Oh, probably 8 to 10, 8 to 12 or better. I'm like, and what's your interest rate? Like, 3.5%, 4%. I'm like, you're gonna be the most stupidest person in the world to go and pay off that loan. Pay off a house that you now can't tap into unless you go get another loan.
Yes.
Why don't you just keep making payments and then put that money into something that's going to make it, like you said, arbitrage it. The banks have been.
Yes.
I always make the joke that the banks have had the biggest head over the bag act with borrowers and brainwashing people out there. Like, put money in a savings account. 1 to 4%, very safe. 4 to 8 is risky, and then 8 to 12. Oh, you can't make that. Well, why are you making it when you give me a half a point on my savings account, but you're charging me 19% on a credit card?
Mm-hmm. Well, they've figured out how to make cash flow. And they've figured out how to use capital that they control and earn something on it. I mean, yes, we can look at that and say, oh my goodness, how can we model that? How can we be the bank? You with us, Scott?
Mm. So Bruce, and Rachel, so I'm going to direct this. So are you guys like best friends and just did I lose you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear it, Rachel. So could you repeat?
I think, Scott, you said, are we best friends? We can just take it from here and wait till you come back in. Bruce and I think each other are very, very awesome.
So are you guys best friends with Dave Ramsey out there and what he preaches? Everything off there. Sorry, we've got a tornado warning here in Austin, so I'm good.
Okay. Well, if you duck and run, we'll know why. Hopefully, it won't be a real siren. I'll take
just keep filming and I'll run. You come back.
Nice. Okay.
Rachel, yeah, let me start. First of all, I think Dave has done a lot of good with a lot of people. However, Dave is really good at getting people out of debt, but I don't think he's really good at helping people build wealth. So I think that's a big distinction. So I don't really have any problem with Dave's overall philosophy of helping people with monetary issues. I just think he really focuses on people getting out of debt rather than helping people build wealth. And I think those are two different types of situations. So that's my truth. I don't know if you want to add anything, Rachel.
That's basically what I would say as well. I respect him for really helping people build from where they were, which is really in a spiral out of control, to get into a little bit of control and put some systems and processes in place. And yet at the same time, I would say the steps for really building an exceptionally extraordinary life of true wealth that we all as entrepreneurs are aspiring to, and really being part of the 1%. I don't think that most of that advice is going to take you in that direction.
That makes sense. So if somebody's looking to kind of reevaluate their things, I'm sure you guys have kind of a path or a guideline to kind of sit down with them and kind of walk them through where they're at and where they want to go. Or you guys want to talk a little about kind of your process for helping people?
Yeah, we can. And I think really what this starts with is it starts by looking at their current financial situation. And we always start everything that we do with a strategy conversation. We're wanting to say, hey, what are you currently doing? Where's the lay of the land for you? And Bruce can even talk about this more distinctly. We're looking at a financial picture for them. Where's your money flowing? Where is it going? Where is it sitting? And is it providing you cash flow and control? Those are really the top two things. Is your financial situation giving you the most control that you can possibly have? Or is it not? And if not, how can we get you in a position of control? And if it's not producing as much cash flow as possible, how can we increase that cash flow? So we're looking at what strategies could that person use to say, without making any more money, without cutting back and eating top ramen for the rest of your life, and without taking on a huge amount of risk, how can you make the same dollars that you are having come in right now go further by shoring up those money leaks and really saying, hey, let's figure out a way to minimize fixed payments through loans. Let's figure out a way to shrink the tax liability, which is way easier to do if you're a business owner. There's not as much flexibility as a W-2 employee. You can maybe change your, now the word is escaping me. Yes, your withholdings. That's really all you can do as a W-2 employee, but there's a lot of tax strategy on the tax side. So we're looking at what strategies can be employed. And then we're saying, okay, where are you holding your cash? And can you get to it? If you wanted to invest in real estate or notes or buy a business tomorrow, can you get to your cash? It doesn't matter if you have $5 million if you can't access any of it. So we're really looking at how can we get more of your capital into a position that has safety, liquidity, and growth. Do you want to take it from there, Bruce?
Yeah, Scott, here's the thing. What we do is we take a complete financial picture. We look at people's goals. We look at their overall P&Ls, their balance sheets on their businesses. Then we talk to them about, hey, if we're sitting here 3 years from today and we're looking back over those 3 years, what would have to change in your life for you to feel good about those 3 years? So we're trying to take people out of the present, because the present oftentimes is so stressful that they just can't see themselves in 3 years. So I'm trying to get them to where they're getting out of the present into the 3 years. And then we can have a really intelligent conversation. But here's the other thing about mindset. If they don't have the right mindset, we can't help them. I'm sure you have the same thing with We Close Notes. If people don't have the correct mindset on the processes and guidelines that you've put in place to do this, you don't really want to work with them until they can change their mindset. Yeah. Well, we're the exact same way. So we actually talk to them a lot about their mindset too. So we take a complete financial picture, because some people tell us, we do a lot of things with the infinite banking concept. And the reason we do that is we use especially design whole life insurance to actually store money for the businesses, because you have control. But not only do you have control, you get uninterrupted compound growth. An example would be what we were talking about with the banks earlier. And you said, hey, look, the banks are taking and they're giving us 1 to 5% or 4%, I think you said 4% on our savings, and then they're charging us 19%. That arbitrage is very high. But let me bring it down to even a simpler thing. So when I tell a person the bank is giving you 1%, which they're really not, they're probably giving you 0.1%, but I'm just going to use this for simple math. They're giving you 1%, and then they loan it to somebody for 5%. What is the percentage they're making on that arbitrage? Most people say 4%. The bank's making 4%. They're not. They're making 400% on that. And that is an education that people need to know. It's not 4%, it's 400. Banks really like low interest rate environments more than they like high interest rate environments, because they make more on that percentage on the arbitrage in a gross situation. And you can just simply do the math, because if they were giving us 6% on our savings accounts, and then loaning it out to a car at 20%, people would say, well, look, they're making 14%. But if you do the math on it, it's a lot less than 400%, because 6 goes into 20 less than 3 times, or a little over 3 times. So that's something that people need to know as far as the way that they have to think about where they're storing their money. So what we do, and then when you take the money out of the bank to go do purchase for something, you lose that opportunity cost in there. So we didn't teach people, after we free up the cash flow, we teach people, where are you going to store this extra cash flow? We've educated them enough that they're not going to pay off additional debt. We've educated them enough that they're not going to put it away into a SEP IRA unless they're going to do a self-directed IRA like you were talking about, and do an additional cash flow with it, buy some notes or whatever. And we might help them set up to buy real estate, but then they take the discipline to take whatever cash they're flowing back into their own personal bank and just grow that bank up for future, and just repeat the process over and over and over. Now they're in control. The bank is not in control. So that's a 10,000-foot overview of what we're trying to accomplish with every business owner. Of course, I try to keep it simple, but it's not that simple.
I think
normally it was that simple, right? But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own little kind of, as I make the joke, everybody's got their own country western song, right?
Yeah.
And they've got to figure out some things. But I love the fact that you're not talking 20 years, 30 years. Hey, let's look at the past 3 years. And let's figure out how we can kind of gradually knock off some of those mistakes or errors, and start refocusing our focus, our cash flow, our goals, to get on the right path where we wanted to get to, right?
Yeah. The big thing, I'm sorry, Rachel. The big thing people always say is, I wish I would have started this 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I say to them, let's not say that 10 years from now. Let's get started. Let's change your mindset. Let's get rolling again, so we don't say that again in 10 years.
Well, and here's really the value of it, because I want to come back to something I said at the beginning. I said, we're not just about one product. And so we're not just the infinite banking people, and we do a lot of work with infinite banking, and a lot of people come to us because they want that. And that's specifically the reason. But when you look at your whole financial situation, you really want to say, what are we accomplishing? And are we staying principle focused? So first we want to increase the cash flow, then we want to protect it, then we want to make more. So if you're in a position where you say, look, I make great money, but I have no idea where it's all going, and I'm paying too much in tax, and I have no cash flow, I'm not keeping any of my money. First, we need to keep more of the money you're making. So we look at those strategies. Then we say, okay, we want to protect that money. What's the best place we can protect that? We want to put it in a place where it is safe, it's liquid, it's growing, and I can use it. That's the main thing. We want to be able to access that money if an emergency arises, like a medical emergency, or something happens in your business and you have no income for a month because you had a great month and now you have a really tight month, or anything happens where you need access to $10,000 of cash or $100,000 tomorrow. Where are you going to get that money? So we want to make sure you have capital you can access for emergencies, but also for opportunities. It's like this. If you have the opportunity to buy a house cash and you can do it tomorrow, or you would have to give up the opportunity because somebody else is going to buy it cash, you are going to be in a position of advantage if you have the cash accessible and available to steal that deal right now. So the good investors really are saying, how can I invest in what I know and control? How can I not just say, I'm just going to invest in what everyone else is investing in because it might happen to work out, that hope strategy Bruce was talking about earlier, but really, how can I say, I know this asset and I want to invest in it? You need cash to be able to do that. And so as Bruce was saying here, what we want to do is have that capital that we control. Then you are safe in emergencies. You have the leverage to be able to take advantage of opportunities. And the cool thing with privatized banking or infinite banking, we use those words kind of interchangeably, using a whole life insurance policy is you have the cash value that continues to grow. I can borrow against that capital and I can put it to work in another asset like notes, like real estate, like buying businesses, and I'm still earning a return over here inside the life insurance policy. I'm earning interest and dividends. And then over here in the investment, I'm also earning a return. So then I'm just getting my money to multitask and do more than one thing. And the coolest part about it is I'm never taking the money out of my life insurance. So it's not resetting the compounding. It's not going back to zero when I take the money out and then like a bank account would be. So I'm continuing to earn that interest. So I'm doing a lot of jobs all at once and just putting myself in a much better state of mind that allows me to keep more of my money, protect it really well, and then make more by investing really well. And it also helps you leave a legacy. So that's how you are able to use a product to accomplish particular principles and goals in your life. Not just saying, hey, here's the product that's the end all be all. It's really about what are you trying to accomplish?
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. What, for those out there, we've got a lot of people that obviously are working in jobs and that they're looking to leave those jobs. So you start a business, start investing, leaving a job, stuff like that. What are some advice that you would give those people? I'm sure I'm a big believer in starting with the end in mind or preparing ahead of time. What are some recommendations you give to people out there, Bruce, that are thinking about doing that?
Well, I agree. Starting with the end in mind, I agree with that 100%. I'm not a big business plan person because I kind of call that liar's poker. And oftentimes you're lying to yourself. But I think I try to work on a 25-year vision, and that's your end in mind, but then work on it in 90-day increments so that you can refocus when you need to refocus on your 25-year vision. So if somebody is thinking about quitting a W-2 job, sitting down with somebody that can help them with their vision and then figure out how they can start in 90-day increments, I think is a really, really good thing to think about. Now, people are always trying to find capital. That's how we started the show. And that's probably where we need to go again is where do you find the capital? Well, you've already helped a lot of your people find capital by doing self-directed IRAs. There are other ways to do it, even if you don't want to self-direct, that people can figure out. You can do SBA loans. You can do regular personal loans. You can do HELOCs. You can do a lot of other things. But what I have to tell people is really it's your mindset, and you are the greatest personal asset that you can have. A lot of people say, well, I need to go read this book and I need to have this product or this investment product. No. You are the greatest personal asset. You're the person that's going to create the value that's then going to be returned by having income coming from you. So the mindset, Scott, is probably the biggest thing. Yeah,
I would say it's the mindset. And then it's also saying, how can I figure out how to increase my cash flow with the current money that I'm making from my W-2 job. So then preparing and setting that money aside so that it's being stored and grown in that emergency opportunity fund. You might use life insurance. You might just use something else as well. We love life insurance for that purpose, but it's storing that money for emergencies and opportunities and then saying, okay, now that I've got some capital and I have some ability to move forward, I can slowly transition to a business or to real estate or to whatever the entrepreneurial endeavor is. And then as that's creating cash flow, then I can walk away from the job. I am not an advocate of somebody just jumping ship and saying, I have a dream. And so they charge forward with great ambition and they say, my dream is going to catch me. And really, you don't just make money by working in a passion. Your passion is great. God gave you that passion and those skill sets for a specific reason, but it needs to be married up with what serves people. What do people want? What are they going to pay you for? And what are you good at? So when that all comes full circle, I mean, that's going to go way back to, I would say, the number one wealth principle, that dollars follow value. People pay for what serves them. So if you're going into business as a brand new entrepreneur, you need to find a way to serve people. And as you serve people, you give them value. That's when money is going to flow into your life. And sometimes it takes a while to get that right. You might have an idea, but when it's in the seed stage, it's probably not going to be producing a huge amount of revenue and income right away. So I would say jump ship slowly as you really plan and put that safety net underneath yourself.
One of the best advice I've ever heard is from the guy that's on The Profit, Marcus. I can't remember what his last name, but he talks about how entrepreneurs, true business owners, those that are successful, don't go down with the ship. They have passion about it, but they don't ride that all the way to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. If they start taking a dive, they cut it and they jump onto something else. They play Frogger with stuff. And I love what you said, Bruce, earlier about having that 90-day focus, because so many people wait for the end of the year or they look at numbers after the fact. 90 days gives you the ability that if you start seeing something going left or right, you can make that adjustment to correct your course. And I love that focus aspect of it, because I don't think people focus enough on where that end game is mine. I think we get so bogged down into the E-Myth strategy, if you've ever read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, of being passionate and working in the business, trying to control everything, and something that you said very early on, the sooner you can outsource all that day-in activity, that control freak that we all have, the happier you're going to be, because the business is not relying on you to make the decisions. Things happen with or without you being there, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the best ways for people that are interested or listening out there, that ways they can reach out to you guys? What are the best way that they can start looking at what they've got going on before they reach out to you to see, hey, kind of putting their plan together beforehand? What's the best ways that you would recommend people to kind of get started?
Very excellent question. And I think this is something we've really put a lot of thought into, because we believe in giving value first. And we really believe in educating people and giving them tools to succeed. And if our story resonates, if our message and who we are resonates with what you're trying to accomplish, you'll come find us. So what we would say, the number one thing is that if you go to The Money Advantage, that's THE, not D, themoneyadvantage.com/find money. There's a webinar there that you will be able to see somebody walking through. It's a business owner who made about $400,000 in their life, but wasn't saving anything. And they found a way through using these money finder strategies to really increase their cash flow. And actually, it was really significant. For them, it was $97,000 per year that they freed up using some of these strategies. And so then they were able to say, now what am I going to do? How, with this cash flow, now cash flow is great, but what do you do with it? Where are you going to store it? How are you going to invest that? How are you going to accelerate time and money freedom? How are you going to invest that in assets that then give you cash flow? And so that's what the webinar is about. And so I would really encourage you to go there, themoneyadvantage.com/find money. You can also find us all over social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And we would love to connect with anyone if you're resonating with what we're talking about. We have a podcast as well. You can find all of that at The Money Advantage. But I would start by going to themoneyadvantage.com/moneyfinder. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Find money. I said that wrong.
The Money Advantage / Find Money.
There you go. There you go. Sound effects, please. Yes.
Well, but I love what you guys are doing here, because I don't think enough people well, first of all, I don't think they take their accounting seriously enough, their bookkeeping. I don't think they take their cash flow strategies. But one of the things that we're constantly looking at too is if we're going to use a new piece of software or do some sort of tool, how is it going to bring money in? How is the cost going to be worth, is the end game of what we're bringing in going to be worth what the cost was to market? And trust me, in entrepreneurs, we all make different mistakes in marketing ideas, right? Hey, this didn't work as well as we did, but let's nip it in the bud and get rid of it. And I think it's a lot of things. And I'm so fortunate that Steph, our VP of operations and stuff, is constantly looking at it. She's like, Scott, what did you charge? What's this $150 a month thing? Because it can often be for entrepreneurs death by a million cuts, right? And being able to evaluate that, we're able to generate another extra $5,000 off of just adjusting some of the different things that we're using. The duplicity of a lot of systems and websites or tools that people are using. They don't realize that something can use. They can use one website for something versus 60 different websites. But I think another big thing, I'm sure you guys are really good at this, is not just the return on investment that they're getting, but probably a return on time, right, guys?
I think more entrepreneurs want that than they want return on investment, and that's what I opened up the show about. It's like, how can you free up more time so you don't have to be in the day-to-day operations of the business? And that doesn't mean you're retired. It doesn't mean that you're taking a vacation. It means you can be starting other businesses or just thinking about your thinking. If you think about your thinking, you can make your own business more efficient. So yes, return on time is awesome.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. That's why we say time and money freedom. And I didn't even explain that because we say it so frequently, but it's interesting that people just say financial freedom or have a lot of money or have a lot of income. And what's interesting is if you talk to any successful person, they will tell you that it is not about the money. It really is about what they're capable of doing with their time now that they have that financial freedom. So it's looking at it completely different. And yes, return on time. How are you putting your time forward and getting the best return out of that possible?
Yeah, because we deal with so many real estate investors. They get all excited about HGTV and Flip This House and those fictional TVs shows. And they go out and buy a piece of property and they put 60 hours or 80 hours of time in rehab. And, I'm going to do this all myself. And at the end, they would have made more money if they'd taken a part-time job at McDonald's flipping burgers.
Yes. Preach.
Preaching, saying exactly right.
Yeah.
We need a church of higher returns, everybody. We need a church of return on time.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, good stuff there. So how's the podcast? Because you guys, I love your podcast. I've been binging it and listening to it and stuff like that. How's the podcast really help get the word out? Is it allowing you kind of break it down into bite-sized chunks for your listeners and your audience and your raving fans?
Yes. And thank you for asking. That has been really just a huge work in progress. I think we started about the same time, if I remember right. We're about 80 episodes in now, about mid-2017 we started. And what's just been really interesting is with the podcast, we wanted to make sure that we didn't just jump to the really cool stuff first. We really wanted to lay a foundation because we wanted people to understand the principles of wealth creation and the things that probably are much more boring and they sound, not as exciting. Things like saving. Who wants to talk about saving money? But at the same time, we realize that if we don't lay this foundation, these principles and the groundwork first, then we're going to have people just jumping on the strategy idea that we're talking about and not having that solid foundation. And so it's just been a really, really exciting time. We've had a lot of amazing guests on. You were one of them. We had Mike Michalowicz of Profit First on the show recently, and he was fantastic. That was just an amazing show. I love talking about his book and the focus on Profit First, which is the same thing as pay yourself first and saving money. So we've just had some amazing guests in real estate. We've had turnkey providers. We've had investment companies that are places where somebody can say, here's a way I can create cash flow by investing. So we've just had a lot of really powerful, fantastic people who can help you build your business or invest well. And it's been a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been. Rachel and I like to keep it conversational. I love meeting new people. that's been the thing that has been the most rewarding. Not the message that we get out, but building a network of like-minded people has been the most rewarding thing of all.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with that in our podcast and stuff like that. And it's such it's a great feeling to see and surround yourselves with great people. My buddy Greg Reed, who's the author of Think and Grow Rich, 3 Feet from Gold, is common in saying, we're in 5 years from now, we're going to be we'll be the same person except for the books that we read and the people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we meet. And that's one of the most beautiful things. There's so much negativity out there. Don't care what side of politics you're on or what color your skin is or sex, race, whatever. So much negativity out there. And it's so great. And that's why I think so much is so awesome about podcasts is people coming together to listen to like-minded people, to listen to people they can surround themselves that think the same way, have the same positive energy. Mm-hmm. And it can really change America one day, or I say make America great again, one podcast episode at a time.
I love that. It's so easy to listen to podcasts too, especially for somebody who is busy moving all the time. I mean, I remember it was probably, 7+ years ago now that I started listening to podcasts when I was exercising, cleaning, whatever. And it's amazing how much you can listen. You can listen on 2 times speed, and then you can just build this repertoire of knowledge and a relationship with somebody, but you can learn so much through podcasts. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. What's the website one more time for everybody out there, Rachel?
That is themoneyadvantage.com/findmoney.
Guys and gals, you heard it here. Reach out to them. Give them a phone call. Watch that webinar. You're going to love the breakdown on what they do there. Bruce, Rachel, you guys just do a tremendous job. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and really sharing some great nuggets. And it's so easy. It's so awesome to see somebody with such passion coming across the microphone, coming across the screen. It's really easy to see that you guys really do genuinely care about entrepreneurs, about business owners, about people out there, and help to get them on the right track and help them find that money advantage, right?
Well, thanks a lot for having us, Scott. It's been wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, guys, you heard it there first. Check them out. TheMoneyAdvantage.com is their website, but check out the webinar, TheMoneyAdvantage.com/find money out there as well. And you get a chance to listen to their podcast. Great stuff. Mike from the Profit First book, phenomenal. Had a chance to hang out with him in, we're with Philadelphia a few months ago at the Podcast Movement Summit, and got to hang with him, visit with him some. So check it out. You'll love their show, love what they're doing. And like I said, pick up the phone, give them a phone call, touch base with them, and see if they can't help you put your money to better work for you guys. Otherwise, have a great day, and we'll see everybody at the top. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.